Welcome back, baseball fans. The 1973-76 Carryover League. The draft. The first round draft results. We have drafted around in the league. Been a great wild off season. Coming off the 72-75 season, where the Oakland A's beat the Cincinnati Reds. Two best teams in the sport, probably through this entire timeline. It's up to somebody to step up to the plate to knock these goons out. Well, fortunately, they are drafting at the bottom, so that should help the rest of the league. Here's our draft order again. We got all 32 teams with a pick in the first round. Ohio Players and Expansion Team had the first overall pick. And let's go take a look at what happened in the first round. You can draft a player. You can improve a player presently on your team. You have the rights to players. You have rookies, free agents. A pick can come from all different avenues. Let's get started. Ohio Players are on the clock. They're going to take a player who has been the first overall pick in the draft 3 times. This is the 3rd time this dude has been the first overall pick in the draft, not a first rounder. The first overall pick in the draft, once again, is Vida Blue. Yes, you're thinking, what's going on? Well, the 71 MVP Vida Blue card obviously was the first round pick. After that card expired, Oakland traded him to Ohio for the King's ransom. So the expansion Ohio team made him a first round pick. Then after a year, they tore that contract up because he gets better in 76. They had a 75 card. They moved him to the 76 card. The 76 card of Vida Blue is arguably the second best card of his career, behind the 71 MVP card. They're going to just keep renewing this guy all the way through the early 80s. Vida Blue to the Ohio Players, first pick in the draft. Next up, St. Louis Cardinals, and they selected Bake McBride, an improvement again. If you're looking at this color here, this mint green color, means you've improved a guy. Also here, that's the year 76 for both players, it turns out. After the slash, this is the card we were using. We were using the 1975 third card within the year of 75 for blue. We're using the 4th card in year 1974 for Bake McBride. That's because you've improved a player, you haven't added anybody to your team. So you have to go replace that vacant spot in your roster. McBride improves to a .335 year in 1976. And that's why you improve a guy if it's his career year. And that's McBride's career year. Next up, the New York Yankees. And finally, a team adds players for the first time. The New York Yankees had the rights to Bobby Mercer, and so they selected his 1973 card. You can argue the last great year in New York. 1 in center field, 304, 22 dingers. They also added Claude Osteen from the same year, and you're wondering, why do you add 2? Saves time. If you have the rights to multiple guys within a single year, you just announce it now, because nobody can take that player away from you. You have the rights to him. The Yankees traded for Claude Osteen with the Dodgers in the offseason. They needed a lefty until Ron Guidry arrives. When Osteen retires, Ron Guidry will be plucked into that spot. Again, this is a little bit different than historical MLB because all the players are redistributed throughout the league, or a big chunk are. So Mercer and Osteen are the Yankees picks. Next up, the Florida Marlins. And we've often seen expansion teams decide that it's better off improving what you have versus finding stuff in your farm system. So they added Ed Figueroa and Tom Bergmeyer when they weren't very good in earlier years, and now they're improving both players, just like we did up above. Up above, though, these guys were all-stars, MVP in the case of blue. But Figueroa, you know, he's got a nice little middle 70s with the Yankees. So Florida gets that Figueroa Yankee card. Could be a trade chip. You never know. So smart move by Florida to get a really nice Ed Figueroa card. And if the Yankees need Figueroa if they want to win the 1977 or 78 World Series, you got to call the Florida Marlins now. They also improved Tom Bergmeyer. The Florida Marlins started this round with 12 players on the roster. They still have 12 players on the roster. They haven't added anybody. They just improved 2 guys. Over here, this is a note that Florida won the Commissioner's Award for roster utilization, which means they get a compensation pick in the draft. It comes between the first and second round. It's the 33rd overall pick. Congratulations, Florida. Next up, with the 5th pick in the round, Seattle. Again, if a team gets stuck not finding talent available, they'll ultimately going to improve what they have. We had an expansion team here, expansion team here, an expansion team here, a left-handed pitcher there, left-handed reliever there, another left-handed pitcher. Seattle improves Ross Grimsley into one of his best years at age 24. He's got a 3.07 ERA. He's got a really nice 1.16 whip with a playoff team, Baltimore. Ross Grimsley, that's a nice pick for Seattle. Stability at the top of their rotation. Next up, the Dodgers. And now, much like the Yankees, they decided they would just select keepers. The first of which is Don Sutton. No-brainer. Probably will be the first Dodger pitcher taken when his cards are up. The 72 Sutton card, of course, was up, as was the 72 Jim Brewer card, and both guys immediately move into their 73 cards. After that, the Minnesota Twins, they had the rights to Burt Blyleven. They exercised that again with a 1973 card, 20-game winner. 2.52 ERA for Burt B. Home Blyleven. Next up, we had a trade. Let's go look at a trade. Portland needed to make a deal to acquire some talent. And so let's take a look at the Portland trade. Let's see. First, we have to report this trade. I forgot. Yeah, Minnesota, while they were on the clock, they did a big trade. The White Sox came calling because the White Sox wanted Jim Cott. So the trade was consummated. The White Sox sent Carlos May, a guy they weren't sure they were going to keep, and Steve Bry, who actually played for the Twins. The White Sox took him from the Twin farm system, sent him back to the Twins. The White Sox get Jim Cott and a utility infielder, Craig Robinson, and a draft token. The Twins get a draft token because Jim Cott is the best player in this group. He'll win 20 games for the White Sox before moving to Philadelphia. So a good trade for both squads. Interdivision deal, but the White Sox did give up a lot when they gave up a draft token. And 2 outfielders, Bry and Carlos May. Portland was the next trade. This was active player deal. Portland was desperately searching for a left-handed starter. Toronto obliged by sending them Jerry Royce, the prize of this deal. These are all 1973. It's a 75 Gary Sutherland and 75 Jerry Royce, 73 Rich Coggins and Tommy A.G. So Toronto gets a 319 Rich Coggins. So Toronto needed hitting, Portland needed pitching. A.G. doesn't hit very well. Toronto gets a draft token out of this deal because Jerry Royce, who they lost, will be pitching throughout the decade and into the early 80s, while these other guys will be gone. So it helps both these expansion teams. Let's go back to the draft and see what Portland did then. They simply had the rights to 2 right-handed starters. Since they added a lefty, Jerry Royce, they elected to add 2 right-handed keepers. Clay Kirby, his only really good year in Cincinnati, pitching on 3 days rest with a 3.28 ERA. And then they traded for Roger Nelson, who had a great 72 with Kansas City. He's got a decent 74 with a 3.38 ERA. Not an exciting number of picks, but Portland was kind of stuck without talent, really good first-round talent available. You could argue Jerry Royce is their first-round pick. Next up, California Angels. You get a Hall of Famer. Hall of Famers usually go first round. And it's in this case, it's Nolan Ryan. Probably the second or third best card in the Angel tenure. They also took the rights to Bob Oliver in the 8th round. The year of 1973. Next up, the Padres. They did one big important move. They improved Dave Winfield, and the reason the improvement is here. In this column, we have the defenses on the Strat-O-Matic card. He was a 4 outfielder in years 73, 4, and 5. He is now a 1. And he's also a 1 in center field now, folks. So they can use that with the 76 card. Again, a lot of improvements, not crazy about improvements. That means that these teams aren't seeing obvious talent to be in the first round otherwise. It's almost the last resort to improve your guys internally. Arizona, hey, we got a rookie. When you see a gray, it means hasn't been in the league yet because he's young, or a rookie, or was out of the league for a few years, becomes a rookie again, or a newer player again. They took Tom Johnson to be their closer because he's got decent enough closer stats. He's got a 2.61 ERA and a nice 107 whip. He's an E0 pitcher as well. So Tom Johnson, not a household name, but good enough to be a closer for an expansion team. Nice pick. This is called making lemonade out of lemons. Again, Arizona, the expansion teams are not going to find talent in their farm system unless a major league team does not have room to protect them. In this case, the Twins did not have room to protect another right-handed pitcher. The Twins had a ton of right-handed pitchers in this timeline. You had Joe Decker, Jim Hughes, Dave Golds, Bert Blyleven, Ray Corbin, a whole bunch of guys. Couldn't afford to keep, did I mention Bill Campbell? Yeah. So they had no room for Tom Johnson. Next up, the Brewers. Look at this, another rookie. Maybe you'll start seeing a run on rookies once the cork has been popped. Lefty starter Bill Travers. Had a 75 and 76 card. 75 not so much, but 76. 3 days rest. 2.81 ERA. Ignore the 15 wins and 16 losses. They were a bad team, but he's a good pitcher. And he will probably pick the number 2 spot in the rotation beneath Joe Colburn and above Jim Slayton. Next up, Houston, another no-brainer. Ring of Honor Houston player Cesar Cedeno. Folks, he's a 1 -4 in center field in all 4 years. Unbelievable. But we took the 73 card because he's also hitting 320. And that's the only guy they added. They had options for their other potential pick. They decided to wait and see how the draft played out. Cleveland, similar situation. You take a Hall of Famer when he's looking you right in the face. Gaylord Perry, 74, started the All-Star game, which was played in Pittsburgh. 2.51 ERA. He's 35 years old. 102 whip. Unbelievable. Gaylord Perry. For Cleveland. Toronto Blue Jays. They weren't really overly concerned in trading away Jerry Royce because they had another Dodger pitcher they plucked off the Cubs in this case, Bert Hooton. So, in a confounding number of moves here, the Dodgers have lost out now on Jerry Royce and Bert Hooton. Hooton gets to Toronto at age 25 with a 75 season, 18-game winner, and 234 innings. Bert Hooton is a Toronto Blue Jay. Folks, if you're wondering why these traditional MLB players are on teams that didn't exist, it's because we have to have some competitiveness. I'm not going to let the expansion teams get trampled on by juggernaut MLB teams. It's just not very much fun to play blowout games and have the 62 Mets over and over and over again. So, no thanks. So all these expansion teams are getting some decent players. at the expense of your traditional MLB teams. Colorado, the 16th team drafting. They've had the rights to Ron Reed. You know, Ron Reed, this is pretty interesting. You may not know this. So my carryover league, the long continuous card sets I keep from 1969 and 1984, Ron Reed's got a card in every one of those years. Joining a select group, included but not limited to Steve Carlton, Tom Seaver, Don Sutton, Reggie Jackson, Jim Palmer. Well, Jim Palmer doesn't have an 84 card, but Ron Reed does. So, cool little bit of history. So, he will become a lifetime Colorado Rocky. Sometimes it's nice when you seed a team with guys who you renew every year. Speaking of that, Rick Monday's another guy. Rick Monday's going to continue to be renewed for Colorado in our timeline. I do this with a lot of players who played for multiple teams. Reed played for Atlanta, Philadelphia, the White Sox. Monday played for the Cubs. I think he played for Oakland, played for the Dodgers. But yeah, Monday improves in 76 with a very nice OPS of 853. And the Colorado Rockies like slugging. And Ron Reed's converts to a reliever with a 2.46 ERA and a .93 WHIP. That is outstanding. Colorado doesn't normally prize pitching too much, but they got a great Reed performance, arguably the best performance of Ron Reed's career. All right, enough of that. Let's go to the Phillies. And if you're wondering, oops, the Phillies, yeah, you just lost a guy to the team picking right in front of you. Didn't have the rights to him anyway. Philadelphia made a deal. Let's go take a look at the deal that was made between the Phillies and Mets. I'm going to have to skip down a bit. Yeah, here we go. So the Mets and Phillies did trade Tug McGraw. We were wondering if McGraw was going to go to the Phillies. The answer was yes, because the Mets cards weren't good. But the Mets actually got a pretty nice haul out of this. Terry Harmon's got a nice 76 card where it's 290. They also get another lefty reliever, Max Scarse, who was actually better than McGraw in 73, and a draft token, all from the Phillies. Of course, the Phillies will have Tug McGraw with a 75 or 76 card and run it all the way back, probably to 1981. For now, though, Philadelphia, they added two players. They had the rights, of course, Steve Carlton, 76. You know, the funny part about Carlton, from age 28 to age, he's in his prime, from 73 to 76. Yet these are some of the most boring years for Carlton. He's much better before and after. Weird. As a young pitcher and as an older pitcher. But in his prime, not so much. Very strange. Does win 20 games in 76 with a 3.13 ERA. Reasonable whip of, well, it's a good whip, .17, age 31. Maddox has his career year in 76, so they added that. 330 batting average for Gary Maddox. Next up, your Kansas City Royals. We long debated, should we improve George Brett to his 1976 batting title card? And we decided we were going to wait because he's a 1 at third base in 1975. We want to keep him as a 1 for a little bit longer. It's the only time George Brett is a 1 defensive player. So they're going to keep that. And plus, he's still hitting 308. So we're going to keep Brett with a 75 card. Joining him in that 75 year is John Mayberry. My goodness. 963 OPS might be the highest one of all players drafted at this point. It could be very well be John Mayberry at age 26. Next, the Pirates. If you're not named Johnny Bench, you drafted the best catcher in the league. And that's Manny Sanguillen, because he only hits 328 with a -2 arm. Actually, Carlton Fisk will hit 330 with a -2 arm. So Sanguillen may be relegated to the third best catcher in the league. Yeah. Manny Sanguillen, a 328 hitting catcher for the Pirates. They also, smartly, improved Dave Parker to his first full season as a corner right fielder in 1975, because this will be the first year Pittsburgh is without Roberto Clemente, who passes away after the 1972 season. Next up is Baltimore. These are the lean times for the Orioles. Early 70s, late 70s, they're really good. Middle 70s, not so much. But they did get the Lee May card the last good year in Houston. They get his stats for a year. And they also held on to Eddie Watt for one more year at age 32. Not exactly sexy picks for Baltimore. Detroit's going to have the Rookie of the Year. Can you guess, before I scroll down, who that would be for 1976, the year of our bicentennial, the All-Star Game at the Liberty Bell in Philadelphia, and the American League starter was, indeed, the Bird, Mark Fidrich. So he becomes Detroit's first-round pick. And I talked about the old men of Detroit. No longer. They also improved Ron LaFleur to a .316 average. So suddenly, Detroit, after holding on to older players for such a long time, and they still have Norm Cash, Al Kaline, Mickey Stanley coming up soon, they got some young blood finally in Detroit's system. Next up, Vegas. Vegas had the rights to Jim Lonborg, and they made the pick. Lonborg, interesting career, had a great, as a young pitcher, I think he was a Cy Young Rookie of the Year in the 60s. Then he had arm problems. Then he comes back with a nice 1972 with Milwaukee. Earns him a contract and deal with the Phillies. Plays with the Phillies behind Steve Carlton for a couple playoff teams before his career ends. Vegas selected him with the 74 season. A .321 ERA in 283 innings. Next up, the Expos. This is not sexy, but overall, big picture, it is. The Expos, when you don't have an obvious first-round pick, the Expos did something pretty smart, and that is max out the number of left-handed pitchers your team has, so you don't have to search for one late in the draft. So they added this 1975 Dan Warthen card. He's kind of a one-and-done card, but it's a good one-and-done. It's a .311 ERA, and it's a .129 whip. Nice card. Starter 7, relief 4. And they also had the rights to a Mickey Scott card with a .329 ERA. They joined Dave McNally, who still has a decent card, a Baltimore Dave McNally card, better than the Expo version. So they actually have 3 good lefties on the Expos, and it's just the first round of the draft. So it only goes up from there for the Expos. They're going to have a mixed bag the rest of this draft. Boston does what Boston does, and what I mean is they just draft guys and they figure out where to stick them later. So yeah, Fisk was a no-brainer as the first pick. -2 arm catcher who hits .331 in their World Series year. And oh, by the way, yeah, Jim Rice, year 2 rookie. Couldn't make the team a year ago because they added Fred Lynn and Cecil Cooper. So now Boston has a slow-pitch softball outfield of Tommy Harper and Rick Miller and Jim Rice and Fred Lynn and Dwight Evans. Oh, and Yaz can play the outfield as well. Yeah, so figure out where to stick all those guys. Obviously, you can't play them all. We don't like guys just sitting on the bench rotting. Maybe you should make some deals, but Boston's going to have to figure out what to do with all these pieces. Yeah, so it's a Boston thing. Okay, next up, the Mets. So yeah, they reluctantly let go of Tug McGraw, but the writing was on the wall. He wasn't that great for the Mets anymore. 74, John Matlack is still very good. If you've been following our league, the 72 Matlack card often pitched better than Tom Seaver in our timeline. So we're going to see what happens with a different Matlack card. Statistically, this one's also very good. It's a .241 ERA and a .111 whip. He's an E0. He's 24 years old. and that's a 2-year contract. So yeah, good news for the New York Mets. That was a nice trade. I think they made off on the Phillies in that trade because they got Max Garcia, and they had a hole at second base, and they added Terry Harmon, who could be an everyday player if given the opportunity. Texas, you're wondering why are the Rangers drafting so low? Well, they made the playoff. They snuck into the playoffs a year ago, won the wild card round, but unfortunately, they're not very good. And they have to draft very low. And they have plenty of holes on the roster. And they were awful at one point. But the last 2 drafts have been pretty good because they have added Len Randall and Toby Harrah and Mike Hargrove and Jeff Burrows. So a lot of good guys were added to Texas, yet they still have a bunch of holes. This is one of the few teams, I think it's the only team in the league, that doesn't have anybody who can pitch on 3 days rest. Still the case. They got a rookie, second-year rookie, or Jim Umbarger, lowered his ERA a run from 4.12 to 3.15 in 76 as an E7. Whip is a 132. We'll just pretend we didn't look at that. But he becomes a lefty starter that the team needs. And yeah, that's the best Texas could find because it's Texas. They just don't... The only thing left in the farm system now is probably Jim Sundberg, Bill Fahey. Not much down there anymore. It all has been brought up. Next up, Atlanta. Not to look a gift horse in the mouth. They had Dusty Baker. Sure, he's not hitting 320 anymore, but he's sitting 288. He's a 2 in center field with a -3 arm. 813 OPS, 24 years old. They added Dusty Baker, kept him going. Hank Aaron, Dusty Baker, and Ralph Garr in the outfield. That is frightening. Next up, the Cubs. Wow, they're having a great draft forecast, at least. Almost didn't take Bill Madlock as a batting champion with a 354 average. They didn't take him last year because they already had Madlock with a 314 card. But enough's enough. You can't deprive a guy from his career year for 2 years. As it stands now, he'll only get 3 years with this card instead of 4. So Bill Madlock's 354 card is in the league finally. Joined with Jose Cardinel's best year in the timeline, a 317, 821 OPS year. He's an ace stealer. 2 in the outfield. Cubs look really good. And they got to figure out how to get Ron Santo and all these guys in the same lineup. Madlock and Santo are both third basemen. They might have to deal Santo. I don't know what's going to happen with the Cubs. The White Sox were delighted to get Jim Cott, but 5 seconds after the Cubs turned their picks in, the White Sox announced their picks in the no-brainer department. Dick Allen and Wilbur Wood, because they're the same year, 1A and 1B. So technically, based on a coin toss between these two dudes, Dick Allen's the first-round pick, and Wood becomes the eighth-round pick because of the year 73. A year after MVP for Allen and Cy Young consideration for Wood. So White Sox are running it back, trying to knock off the Oakland A's out west. 30th in the draft, the Giants added a 24-game winner, Ron Bryant. And believe it or not, Juan Marichel's last year in the league, he's 35, pitches 207 innings. Next up, the 2 World Series teams, and that'll be the end of the first round. Cincinnati, if Johnny Bench card needs to be renewed, he becomes automatically their first-round pick, and he is. 75 bench, -4, 878 OPS. You know, it's bench. He's only 27 years old. But you know what's even better, folks? He's a B stealer. And you gotta believe it, folks. Johnny Bench is a B stealing catcher with a -4 arm with 28 dingers for your Big Red Machine. Unreal. Joining him is some guy named Gary Nolan. Look it up, folks. When Gary Nolan's really good, the Reds get to and possibly win the World Series. 72, 75, 76. When Nolan's not around, nothing. Write it down, folks. Write it down. Gary Nolan. 3.16 ERA. And the whip, 1.09. Missed all of 73 and all of 74. And the Reds were sitting home in October. By the way, Gary Nolan and Johnny Bench, same age. They're 27. And last but not least, the Oakland A's. Well, it's Catfish Hunter with a 74 card. I will say this. We saw the 73 Catfish Hunter card. We got to bring some attention to this because we have it up here. These are the 4 options for Catfish Hunter. Had they taken the 1973 Catfish Hunter card, that guy gave up 39 home runs in 256 innings. That is bad. That's bad, particularly for this timeline. But in 74, he's got a 2.49 ERA, 318 innings, only a more reasonable 25 homers allowed, and a .98 whip. So had Oakland taken the wrong Catfish Hunter card as the ace of Oakland, with Vita Blue, of course, long gone, that could have altered the entire potential history of the Dynasty A's attempting to repeat once or possibly 2 times. So, yeah. So we got the 74 Catfish Hunter card, not the 73 card. And that ends the first round of the draft. We'll be back with more rounds coming up. Thanks for checking this out. We'll see you next time.